Hey pickles, welcome back to another video, or if it's your first time here, welcome to my channel. Hopefully you want to stick around and subscribe. Today's video is a tutorial on this crazy colourful look using the PLOUISE Worldie palette. I've not had time to play with it as much as I wanted, so I figured, you know what, I'm gonna fetch it out and I'm gonna film a look with it, and this is what happened. This is gonna be a pretty PLOUISE product heavy tutorial, but it's fine because if you're missing anything and you want to recreate this look, you can either substitute it or use my code to order whatever you are missing. It is an affiliate code, so I am forever grateful for those of you who do use it because I do earn a small amount of commission, so thank you so much. Remember, this product is buildable and designed to help you get the absolute best from your shadow. So I'm just patting it on here with the Zoeva 144 brush first of all, making sure to bring it on all the areas that I know I'm going to need the eye base, and then I'm using a Morphe E22 brush just to buff it out and help it get to that semi matte stage where it's not creasing on us but it's still going to grab all that colour and pay it off with maximum intensity. As we know, this is a Worldie palette tutorial and I really do love this palette. The blues in here are to absolutely die for, which is why I'm using them. So I started with shade Sky High, which is a nice medium blue, and I took that on a PLOUISE 124 brush. This is an amazing brush because it is so small but quite dense, and it's perfect for the duck and blend method or dip and blend method, whatever you want to call it. I started on the outer part of the eye, bringing Sky High across halfway towards the inner corner and then mapping out the flicked up shape for the full cut crease on the outer part, and then just built up the shadow until I was happy with the intensity. These PLOUISE Worldie shadows build up in an insane way, like I cannot explain. You would just have to try the formula yourselves and then tell me you agree with me. To add some depth and help with definition, I took shade San Francisco on a Morphe M431 and just layered that over the top of Sky High at the bottom of where our blend is. So it's just going to add definition when we later go in and do our full cut crease. And again, just built this up till I was happy and went back and blended any harsh edges with Sky High. And this constant back and forth is something you're going to see me do a lot, because if you haven't seen my tutorials before, I like to really make sure that I don't lose intensity between blends. Next up was shade Europe, and this is just going to sort of bridge between the darker shades and then the lightest sort of pastel blue shade that's coming next. So I used the 50-50 method, so 50% of the brush was on the previous colour and 50% creating that new blend. And then again, going back in with Sky High, you'll see the pattern forming here. I want to make sure I don't lose any of the shades that I've put on. I've chosen them and put them on for a reason. We want to see them all. Worldie was the lightest shade for this part of the eye, so I took a nice big fluffy brush and just buffed it out right up onto the temple, just really making sure everything is nice and blended. I didn't worry about going over the brow, I can always sort of fill that back in after, and even using my fingers just to blend it out. To add purple to the inner part of the crease, I used the shade First Class, which is such a gorgeous unique shade, and I just used a MAC 221 brush to lightly buff that in to the inner part of the crease, right onto the bridge of the nose, blending into those blue colours, so small circular motions all the way across, working until I was happy with the amount of colour there. And then to blend it out, I took the shade Miles High from the Beauty Bay X Mama Mitchell palette. This is discontinued now, but any lilac shade will do, or you could just skip this step altogether. But I thought this nice pastel lilac helped blend everything out, buffing it right up into the front of the brow. Again, we can fix the brow later, or if you don't do your brows first, this absolutely won't be any kind of problem to you whatsoever. And just again, back and forward, making sure everything is blended and intense. I really wanted the lower part of this blend to be super deep, super intense, so I really took my time building up first class there, just going back in with the product, back in with the product, back in with the product. To tie everything together and further add a little bit more depth, I took Sky High again on that PLOUISE 124 brush and just buffed it all into the inner part of that crease. We're not going to leave it looking this blue, we're going to go back in with first class here and blend it so it becomes like a dark purple, but I just, as I say, wanted the depth at the lower part of the blend. Now this is a hack that's slightly modified that the PLOUISE Makeup Academy do. So they use Vaseline to pre-cut the crease. I'm not a fan of Vaseline, however I found that using this No. 7 cleansing balm worked exactly the same but better for me personally. It's just personal preference, you can use whatever you want. Vaseline, cleansing balm, micellar water, and I just used a small amount at a time on a My Kit Coat 0.2 brush just to carve out that shape of the crease that I want, and this just gets rid of any shadow that's where we don't want it to be and it gives the crispest line. I then clean everything off with a makeup wipe, either wrapped around a little spatula or around my nails depending how I'm feeling, and it just creates literally the sharpest cut crease of life. If you haven't tried this hack yet, please try it. I promise you it's a game changer. Just remember the skin in the eye area is really delicate and fragile, so just be super gentle with whatever tools you decide to use. With our crease now mapped out, it's time to go in with the PLOUISE base again, and again I'm using the Zoeva 144 brush. This is a firm staple in my brush collection, and all we do now is just follow that line that we've already created. Try to pat the product on rather than drag it or swipe it. Sometimes you do have to do the odd little swiping motion here and there, but more than anything, try and pat the product on. Make sure you are keeping that top line super neat, super crisp. Mistakes do happen, don't worry, but just try and be as precise as possible. Take your time, you're in no rush. The more careful you are, the more time you take over it, the more precise it will be. So that's always worth bearing in mind as well. Something to note that I quite often forget to mention is that a little bit of the base goes a long way. You barely need any. And again, the same as before, I'm using my E22 brush from Morphe just to pat everything out and get it semi-matte. You can see here where I went over the line slightly with the E22 brush. I'm going to show you guys now how I fix that. So I take a little fine liner brush, I believe this is the 2500 from Morphe, and I just used some of that San Francisco shadow and very carefully went around the cut crease and filled in the mistake. For the lid, the first thing we needed to do to continue here was to create that spotlight effect or halo effect, whatever you want to call it. So all I did here was go in with the same shades of blue that we used in the crease. So San Francisco, then Sky High, then Europe, and then finally Worldie in the middle. And for the most part, I think I just used the same brushes on the lid as I used in the crease, just building up, doing the 50-50 method across the lid as well. Honestly, the 50-50 method will change your game. If you guys want me to do a video just on eyeshadow blending, then let me know in the comments. That's definitely something that I can do. Or I do offer online masterclass courses on Facebook as well, which are in like a live setting. So just let me know down in the comments if you want a YouTube video, or hit me up on Facebook if you want to join one of my online masterclasses. It's all good. Just took my time as per usual, going back and forth to build up the blend just the way I liked it. And then I took a small Real Techniques brush just to fill in that gap and bring the lid colour flush to the cut crease. You can leave a little gap if you want, if that's your style. As I say, it's all down to personal preference. There's no rules in makeup. To prep for the ombre wing, we just did the exact same thing again. So taking that number 7 cleansing balm on the My Kiko 0.2 brush, I just roughly mapped out the shape of my wing and cleaned off as much of the blue as possible with the brush. Every so often I go and wipe the brush off, as the product that's lifting off the eye sticks to the brush and you end up just smearing it around. So I clear the brush off every so often, and then again go in and wipe everything off with a makeup wipe. I use the Purple Johnson's ones, if anybody's wondering. They are incredible and they smell so good. Okay, no, but they really do actually smell lush, and I highly recommend them because they're a little bit sort of oily, so you're not dragging as much. They just lift the product off really quickly, really easily. They're also great for getting mascara off your lashes as well when you're removing your makeup. PLOUISE base, again, just giving the shadow something to stick to. You could also use blank canvas if you have it from the Acid Rain paint collection. I do like blank canvas for ombre wings, but I fancied changing it up and keeping it all as using Rumour 2 today. No particular reason, just fancied it. And again, patting it out and making sure it's semi-matte. Don't just go straight in when the base is wet. No, we don't want to set it. Yes, we want it tacky, but we don't want it wet. If you go in over a wet base, whether you use the PLOUISE base or whatever you use, it's just going to go cloggy, and it's just, trust me, it's going to ruin the look. You're going to have to clean it off and start again. But yeah, for the wing, I just took those crease shades bar San Francisco across, starting from First Class in the inner and ending up with Worldie on the outer, the same as the crease goes. And for this I used a Morphe M432, which is just this straight edge definer brush or flat definer brush, and using that sharp straight edge actually helps us keep everything neat, because you just use the edge of the brush to keep that line of the liner straight. Does that make sense? Probably not. And then I just marked the wing shape with, again, a wipe. I'm telling you, these are the way forward. This step is completely optional, but I wanted to add a little bit of sparkle, so I took the Beauty Bay liquid shadow in the shade Sensor. This is now the old packaging. They've rebranded their own brand of packaging, but this is a gorgeous silver. There are sort of some multicolour reflex in it, but for the most part it's just a super lush, sparkly silver. I decant some onto the back of my hand, and then I use a nail art brush, believe it or not, to do my line work. It's so much finer than even the finest liner brush I've found. So if you like doing sort of little accents like this, definitely invest in some nail art brushes. These are just from Amazon. They were super cheap, and I just layered up that liquid shadow until I was happy with it, and then marked out the wing with my PLOUISE base on my Zoeva 144. I didn't even need to tell you guys that at this point, did I? So I marked out the wing, made sure everything was nice and sharp, and then added some base under the eye so we can put our shadow there. Exactly the same as you do on the upper eyelid, we treat the lower lid the same, exact same actions, giving the shadow something to stick to. It is shadow, why would you treat it any differently? Take the same amount of time and care below as you do above. A lot of people, me included sometimes, do rush the lower lash line, and it just ruins the look, so slow it down, baby. For the lower lash line, I just used San Francisco and then blended it out with a tiny bit of Sky High. Kept it quite rounded, quite tight, and then buffed it nice and blended just so it was soft and a little bit grungy. I loved the way it looked, I really did. You could add whatever colours you wanted on the lower lash line, but I went for the blue theme. And then for in the lower waterline, I used the Acid Rain paint in the shade Ecstasy, which is a dark blurple. It works for both blue and purple looks. It's quite versatile, and using a silicone Morphe applicator, I put that in my lower waterline. The paints are completely safe for use in the waterline. You can definitely do this, just take your time and they do dry down. I just smudged it out at the end here, as you can see, and look how perfectly that little trick just complements. For lashes, it was the unicorn lashes in the style How's Your Head, and these are actually a really pretty lash. They definitely look far nicer on than they look in the packaging. And then for the inner corner highlight and a tiny bit on the brow bone, I used MAC Nylon. This is probably the best MAC eyeshadow. MAC eyeshadows aren't the best, I'm just going to come out and say it, but Nylon is incredible for inner corner and brow highlights. As you can see, it just brought a lot of light to the look. It's very neutral, it's neither gold nor silver or white, I don't know, it's just nylon. And as you can see, this is the finished look. Little macro something something, showing you all my imperfections, but it's all good. Once again, let me know what you think of this look down below in the comments. Make sure to like this video and share it, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the notification bell so you never miss another video from me. Thanks for watching, pickles. Make sure to stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.